You're muted. Muted, Junty. Juliana, can you speak? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, there's something going on with Junty. Can everyone else hear me and Juliana?
Yes.
Okay. Something's happened with Junty there. Go onto your sound preferences in your Mac.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Flipping AirPods. Not all they're cracked up to be. Hi guys, sorry about that. Brief technical glitch. But let's get going. Is everybody sitting comfortably?
Yeah.
Good to see you all. So welcome everyone. This is our third ever Freelance Union event and our third webinar in the series, Prepare to Smash It After Lockdown. Today we'll be talking about processes, sales, money, all that kind of thing. I'm really glad you could all make it, whether you're from Freelance Union or outside FU. And welcome to Juliana all the way from New York. Thanks for joining us today, and sorry about the miscalculation about time zones. How are you today, Juliana?
I am doing excellent. I have my coffee in hand. I'm great.
We've all got our cups of tea.
There we go. Yeah, I do tea in the afternoon. My time in London, I did a lot of tea, so
yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. And how is New York this morning?
Quiet. It is unusually quiet, but I guess that is the new usual for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, that must be pretty eerie in a city like New York being so quiet.
It feels a little like one of those zombie movies. Like you're just, that's kind of the general feeling when you walk outside. But the weather has been pretty spectacular. So now it's pretty, people are coming out.
Nice. That makes all the difference, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So in our first webinar, we set goals for lockdown with Coach Jamie and learned the art of visualization and how to find those goals that really matter. I think for a lot of us, those goals are to sort of come out of lockdown with more business than we've ever had, which would be unreal if that happens, right? Last week, we were honoured to have the great Bella Hatvani, inventor of the touchscreen and CD-ROMs, with us, teaching us the art of listening to our constituents and how that can lead to entrepreneurial breakthrough. That was a pretty profound session, and I'm sure all of you who were there would agree. So I want to see some hands now. So I'm on my gallery view. Who has set goals for lockdown? Who has specific things that they want to achieve during this time? Nice. Who feels like they're making some progress on those goals? Nice, pretty much everyone. So who has the goal of aiming to come out of lockdown with more customers than they had before? Actually, maybe not my goal. Mine's actually to have kind of bigger customers than before, but it's similar. And I definitely need a sales process for that. So Juliana's here to talk us through how we can set up a kick-ass sales process to get more customers or better customers through the door of our small freelance creative businesses. So final question to the gang. Who already has a sales process in their business of any description? Looks like two. Me neither. So Juliana, you're rubbing your hands.
This is no. I mean, my sales process is on point, but this is what I call sales process ish, or where you kind of have a sales
Yeah,
process.
that
Yeah,
sounds about
very
right.
cool.
Yeah. So I think you got your work cut out with us. Good luck. We did an extensive survey of the group towards the beginning of the existence of Freelance Union, and we asked people, amongst other things, how do you get most of your work? And most people said they got it. It was actually like 85%. Is that right, Chris? Something like that.
Around 87% of people said they primarily get their work through word of mouth, and very few, only 15 or 13% thought that it was, or they got their work through other means. So
yeah, so I reckon that's quite a encouraging thing in a way, because it means that those of us who are getting most of our work from word of mouth, we have a lot of scope to boost those numbers by using a sales process, for example, or using social media more to put ourselves out there. So I think there's a lot of meat on the bone if for people who are worried about getting work, and hopefully Juliana's going to help us today to reach some of that potential. Firstly, though, a bit about Freelance Union for those who don't know. We're all about making sure that creative freelancers and small businesses don't have to face these challenging times alone, or for that matter, the normal challenges and insecurities of being a freelancer. Currently, we're mainly a WhatsApp group for sharing information, opportunities, ideas, and support. But as of yesterday, we're now on LinkedIn. I'll send a link out to you following the webinar so that you can link in with us, whatever it's called. Join, follow us. I'm new to all this stuff, and I actually accidentally deleted our page today. So that's how good I am. Bit of housekeeping, finally, before we talk to Juliana. So this webinar is being recorded, just so you know, but it will only be shared internally with our Freelance Union group. You are in control of your own mute, unmute buttons. So please keep yourself muted unless you have something to say. And we want to make this interactive. So we're going to do that in a couple of ways. In a second, as is custom now for Freelance Union webinars, we're going to ask about 3 people to just say your name, what you do, and the question for this week is what do you want to get out of this session? So who's up for introducing themselves super quick? Feeling shy today.
you'll have to pick them, John T.
Oh, I might pick them. Is John Burkhart in the house? Can't see him. John?
Howdy there.
Oh,
Yeah.
can
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
What's your name?
John Burkhart, keynote speaker, marketing consultant. Well, those were my former jobs before lockdown. And what I'm really looking forward to getting out of this session is, getting some work from people who aren't just my keynote speaker friends, because I just get it. I get my work from friends, and none of them are working either. So I think I've got to scale beyond just my speaker friends. And so this is going to be, I can't wait for this session. Thank you.
Nice, that's good. So pushing out beyond your current kind of group of people.
Exactly.
Anyone else? How about you, Hazel Thompson?
I'm Hazel. I am a photojournalist and a filmmaker. I spend about 4 to 6 months of the year on the road, and that causes me, I don't have a great processes because I have 2 different kind of rhythms, and I'd say 100% of my work is from word of mouth, and I really want to improve on that. I'm appalling at marketing, and really I'm excited about today. I literally, this is what my plan for lockdown is, to get my processes in order and my general administration workflow management in order in this time.
Great.
Looking forward to be here. Thanks.
Good goals. Cool. Thanks, guys. We'll move on because I think people are feeling sort of lunchy sleepy. Now to introduce Juliana. Thanks again for being here, Juliana. So I've known you for just about one phone call, which was last week. But I think I already know something about you, which is that you have a process for everything. You seem to be very efficient and effective in what you do. I personally love processes because I'm naturally all over the place. So I find processes very intriguing, and I think without them I'd be a bit of an undefined mess with my work. So Juliana, when did your love for processes develop?
I love for processes. I think there was 2 points. There was one point of my awareness of process, and just quick tiny story. I'm a native Colombian from South America, and I grew up in New York. Went to school in New York and all that good stuff, and there was a point where my mom was going through her process of naturalization to be a U.S. citizen, and they lost my identity. My identity was completely lost, like literal, like there was like a administrative glitch in the system. And in order to come back, and at that time I was applying for university, right? I was applying to uni and I had no identity, so it was really hard. And I got to understand what it meant to go through processes and loopholes and like, where do you go and where do you come through here? So process for me at that moment was like, oh crap. Like if you don't know the process, if you don't know how to navigate it, you're a little bit shit out of luck. So that was really, I think, like my first like, oh, process is important. And then I would say fast forward, I was a really, really, really young manager. I think I was like 21. It was almost like 2 decades ago. And I had this job, this incredible job working at these huge sports and entertainment. So think like Super Bowl, Ryder Cup, like Kentucky Derby, like these massive sports events. And we had to hire people, right? And like I was a young manager, no idea what I was doing. And we had to do 100 interviews a day. And, for about like 3 days, hire a team of 50, train them in 2 days across these massive arenas and fields, right? Where your resources are completely displaced. And then go manage and operate $1 million a week. So that was a gig where I was like, oh, if you have good systems, if you have good process, you're able to just really manage a whole lot less, which was great because I had no idea what I was doing and I hated managing. Train a lot faster and hire better. So that's really where I would say I found like processes and systems to be really important, especially when you start going through volume. The more you take on, the more things start to break.
For sure. Well, that's huge. So you literally wouldn't have an identity if it wasn't for processes.
I know.
And you say that you're, I was doing a bit of research on you, and you say you're passionate about giving the underdog a leg up in life. Where did you get this passion from?
Growing up super scrappy, right? We have a very much, story of like my mom coming to the US and everything like that. And realizing that resources, no matter where you are, no matter the circumstances, are so important. And the more you have infrastructure, right? The more you can get yourself from point A to point B, the easier that it is, right? So really being able to give, as I say, underdogs, and especially when you think about entrepreneurs, when we're starting out and freelancers, you feel so much like an underdog because you're competing, right? You're competing against the bigger proposals or the bigger, businesses for the bigger clients, right? And there's all of this, there's always a sense of competition. So being able to have, good resource, good process, gives you that competitive advantage. And that is truly what I'm all about.
So good. So the crucial question is, do you think you can help creative freelancers like us?
I have absolutely helped creative freelancers. I love creative freelancers because lots of time it's just about understanding that even though this stuff can seem like, like I don't want to do this, it's gonna like, you know, sometimes it's a little icky is the word that I like to use.
Icky big time.
Icky big time. But if you get this done, if you put this in place, it gives you the freedom to create so much more. Right? Like that's what it really does. It gives you freedom to create more. And at the end, I think that's a lot of what we want is, you know, to stress less and build more.
Yeah, come on, I'm up for that. So Juliana, just want to welcome you to share your presentation with us now and introduce what you're going to talk us through today.
All right, cool. So I am definitely going to talk to you guys about process. And I know, you know, right now, a lot of you are going through, okay, well, we've got our initial, you know, networks and maybe we're, you know, getting referrals and things of that nature. Maybe they've slowed down. You know, so for some people they might have picked up. But what's interesting about a sales process is that you get to see what happens to it when it's not just, you know, outside friends, families, colleagues, and maybe, you know, past colleagues and clients, right? Like what happens to it when you're getting somebody completely new in the door, right? When if you guys are starting to do some marketing, because John T and Chris told me that, you know, a lot of you are looking for other marketing, you know, mediums and traffic, then it's really fascinating when it's like, it's not as easy to sell, right? Because there isn't that transfer of trust that happens when there's a referral, right? When there's a referral, like they trust them, they trust you, they make the introduction, like, you know, by means they trust you as well, at least to some degree. So it's a lot easier. But if we're able to create a really decent sales process, and that process will instill trust, right? It'll show your leads and opportunities and prospects that like, wow, you've got your shit together. You know, there's confidence that like they're going through something. It feels organized. It makes them feel that they're confident in investing time, effort, and money with you because it's something that feels easy to them, right? So if you're able to provide that sales process for your potential clients, chances are you're going to close not only faster, but bigger deals. So that's really what I want to talk to you guys today. And for those of you who said you have a sales process-ish, I'd love to see by a show of hands, where does that sales process break, right? Because we talked about the more volume you put into the system, that's where we start to see it break. Does it break when you start getting, let's say, and I'm going to say qualified leads and like, you know, people who are booking calls with you? Does it break if you have 5 people booking calls with you a week? Raise your hands. Does it break if you have 10 people booking calls with you a week? How about 20? All right, cool. So now we start to see where it breaks, right? And what happens when we think about why this breaks is because it's like, oh crap, you know, first of all, I got to talk to all these people. 2, I have to do follow-up, right? Because, you know, meetings are never just standalone meetings. Meetings, and hopefully if they go well, means emails, means proposals, means more meetings, means, you know, you go on, you know, and then we get into onboarding, which is a whole other jam. So really thinking about where does your sales process start to break? And that's a really cool way to kind of say, okay, where there may be some leaks. Wow, I can't speak today. And, you know, where do we have to kind of start filling in the patches? Now, guys, I know you're all on mute, but at any time today, if you want to just get yourself on mute and ask me a question, that is my preference. My preference is to be interrupted, and don't worry about it. Like, I'm really good with flow. You don't have to save everything till the bitter end. So, all right, having all said all of that, I'm going to share screen. I'm going to do this off Google Slides, which kind of sometimes is a little funky because if I put it in demo mode, can everyone see the slides? Yeah, okay, we're good. Cool. All right, so, and really what sales process is about is not leaving money on the table. And I say this because when you start to think about when it breaks, then we stop doing certain things. Either we stop marketing, we ignore leads, and you would think like, who would ever ignore a lead? We are all guilty of ignoring leads, which sounds insane, because if you think about the fact of we're trying to make more money, yet we're ignoring like potential money because you don't have time to get the money that you need. And so it's this crazy circular thing. So that's why we're really trying to make it more efficient. So today it's really about how do we make our sales process efficient? So as you guys are out there marketing, you're bringing in the leads, and then you're able to take the process to close them, which is super, super important. So here is a fun fact for all of you. Many people do their sales process in spreadsheets, right? And they're like, okay, I'm just gonna put on a spreadsheet or Google Sheet or whatnot. Sometimes people will use like Trello or Asana, which are project management tools. But the thing with those tools is that they don't send you reminders for follow-up, right? And 80% of your sales are going to be closed in follow-up, right? I mean, it's super exciting when we get on the phone with someone and they, tell us their credit card over the phone, and then boom, it's done. It's a done deal. But those one call closes are not the norm, right? So being able to have reminders so that we're not relying on our memory is huge, which is why I'm a huge, huge proponent that if you're doing this on a spreadsheet or something like a Trello or an Asana, that you start to adopt a CRM. And I will make it my point today to convince you to do that. So that is really, really huge. All right, so step one, and a few of you have talked about, okay, we have a sales process, but maybe you want to delegate some of it. Maybe you are in a feast or famine situation where you're, you're doing sales, you get the sales, then you're delivering on the sales, and then you're like, oh crap, our whatever contracts that I have are going to finish, or projects, then I'm getting more sales, and you're on that roller coaster. So trying to create as much efficiency, right? As much templatization as possible is going to be huge for you. So what I mean by this is really trying to get all of your documents for sales first as lean and as easy and as repeatable as possible. Now, some of you, right, just because of my dealings with creatives, might say, Juliana, but what about the humanity of sending proper correspondence, where we have that one-on-one connection? I don't want to make things, that are like cookie cutter. I ditched my corporate job. How are you telling me this? Now, not all of you may be saying that. Some of you may be thinking it. So think about it as like 80-20, right? You want to create 80% of your stuff super repeatable, and 20% is where you're creating the intimacy, right? So just because you have a template doesn't mean that you can't customize a part of it, right? Like, hey, Joe Schmo, I'm so excited that, your daughter just, like aced all of her exams. She's getting into this uni. That's awesome, right? Like, so it doesn't mean that we don't take out the intimacy. It just means that all of the stuff that we're saying over and over and over and over again, we're not reinventing it, right? So think about it. A lot of you have referrals and introductions, right? So someone's introducing you to a referral. What does your reply look like? Are you rewriting that every single time, or do you have a template, right? If you're sending out a proposal to a client, are you rewriting that email that goes with the proposal every single time, or do you have a template? Right? Because chances are in a lot of these communications, you're saying the same stuff over and over and over. So what we want to do is templatize some of that stuff and make it so that it's easy to grab. Now, a lot of the stuff you'll already have. So I say, like, go on a treasure hunt for a lot of the communication that you're doing over and over and over again, right? It's a little bit like Groundhog's Day. So where does that communication live? So grab it. If you've ever had anyone help you with sales, or you have someone that helps you with sales, maybe they're a coordinator, maybe they're a VA, maybe you have a salesperson, then, check to see if they have any repeatable stuff, right? Because that's part of your value as a business. think about your client folders, right? Like, or your prospect folders, like where does that stuff live? All right. And then having a copy of your sales documentation and assets, it's good to just put it in one place, right? So having a wiki of all of your sales stuff. And I say this across like your entire business, it's really good to have a wiki. So it's easy to copy paste from somewhere that's easy, right? So that way, if something goes up with your, Google Drive, like there's some sort of redundancy. So just making sure that you have a wiki of all of your templates of the things that you say over and over again is going to make it not only easy for you to grab and go, and it's gonna make your sales process faster. But if you hire a VA, if you hire someone to help you at some point in the future, it makes it easy for them to grab and go. So, all right, cool. Let's get into a little bit of CRM conversation. Right, you really wanna equip your sales tools. So I'm gonna stop here for a second, and I just wanna do a show of hands. Who has a CRM, a client relationship manager, something that is not their inbox, not a spreadsheet, where they are visually seeing their leads and they are able to say, oh, this person's ready for a proposal. I'm gonna put them in this bucket. Who's got one of those? Anybody? Lisa for the win. David for the win. All right, cool. What are you guys using? If you don't mind unmuting yourself.
We use Salesforce, which
okay,
is sometimes good, but sometimes not that great.
Okay. How big is it just you selling? Because you said we, or how many people are using Salesforce?
Oh, so this is a normal work life, and that's with different functions in an organization, and that's why we use it, so that we know how we're related to each other.
Okay. All right. But you independently, are you using a CRM for your work? Okay, got it. Cool. David, what are you using?
Yeah, we use Monday, monday.com.
Okay,
and it's
cool.
just me and two other people, really. So.
All right. So Monday is a project manager, sort of like how I was saying, Asana and Trello are project managers. The issue with Monday, again, it doesn't send you reminders for follow-up, right? So Monday's got some like decent automations for repeatable tasks, which is cool. But it doesn't say like, hey, you're supposed to follow up with, Jamie on Thursday, right? Or because of the proposal. So it doesn't give you that. The other thing that it doesn't do for you in the future, it doesn't give you any sort of data for sales specific stuff, or reporting. So it's not going to say like, hey, out of the 20 leads you have in May, you closed 2, right? You have a 10%, closing rate. So it's not going to give you that kind of information. So it's just something to think about in terms of, because cool. I see that happen so many times, is people will jigger their project management, right? And the thought process is usually like, I just want everything in one place, which is totally fair. But the unfortunate thing is that it doesn't then give you the like process specific features that you want in the future to be able to make decisions, right? So that's kind of the thing. Also, once you start prioritizing your leads, and saying like, oh, I want, like I only have X amount of time, so I might have to ignore some leads, right? Because it's a real thing. Who do I really want to focus on? Because I really want to make sure that these people are going to close. So this means money in the bank this week, or money in the bank this month, right? So that you can figure out like where your attention is going to. Your CRM is really going to help you do that. And I'll show you guys a little bit of why. So I'll go back to share screen. Cool. All right. So, and I get a little preachy when it comes to CRM, but the reason is because people who use a CRM, businesses that use a CRM, increase their revenue by 41%, right? And that sounds like a nutso number, but the reason is because we're not relying on memory. We're able to prioritize. Tasks are done so much easier and efficiently. And navigating those communications and all, like, all the people and conversations just becomes so much more organized, right? Now, to Lisa's point, she was like, oh, in my day, organization, which I'm assuming is bigger than the stuff that most of us are doing, Salesforce tends to be really clunky, right? So finding a CRM that fits, right? Like if you're like a one-person shop and you're selling, and it's you selling, like you don't need a Salesforce. It's clunky, it's expensive, it has 20 million features, it like logs up your computer, if you're like on a laptop, like you don't need that, right? Like you need something that makes sense for where you're at, your resources, and your team. So when we're looking at tools, right, and this is across the spectrum, we want to kind of see, okay, what's going to fit our team? So for creatives, for example, if you're looking at project managers, Monday is an amazing tool because it's super visual. Like I often recommend Monday, even though it's a little bit more expensive than other project managers, because chances are you're going to use it, right? Pretty apps tend to just get more action. That's the truth, right? The UI UX is better. And if you're creative and a visual person, you want a visual tool to interact with. So things to look at is it easy to use, right? Does it have the volume, right? So volume means like if you're doing 10 leads a month versus 200 leads a month, you probably need something different, right? That's where if you're doing like 500 leads a month, a Salesforce may make sense. What kind of integrations there are, is it collaborative? What's the visualization, reporting, and price? So this is just a guide and a tool guide for any, sort of system or tools that you're using for your business to help you make some decisions. Because it's not always just price, right? Like a lot of these places that review applications are like, well, what's the price point? And that's it. But it's really about all these other things that make it, is this a good tool for you? So for you guys, the CRM client relationship manager, if you're a solo, if you're a visual person, if you're living in the Google environment and world, I recommend Streak, right? Streak is free for up to 3 people. The reporting is not my favorite, FYI, but they do have reporting. They have templates. So when I talked about like, hey, all that repeatable stuff that you're like saying and doing, you can create templates right off of your individual, I think I got a question, right off of your individual email, and then be able to send them with like a couple of clicks of a button, which is super cool. So I am a big fan of Streak for, solopreneurs who are in the Google environment, who want easy templates, who want to be able to see where they're being bottlenecked, right? So, like right here, we're like, there's 10 touch points, 19 leads. It's like, oh, some of these leads, we want to be able to contact them, right? Like there might be a bottleneck there. We're able to see the deal size, especially at every point. And so if all of a sudden we see like there's a chunk of money in proposals, you should send out those proposals. Go, Jonty. You just.
Actually, Anna, is this Streak that we're looking at now that you're showing us?
This one is Streak, yes.
Nice. And is that a Google product?
It's not a Google product, but they integrate natively and seamlessly with Google, which is really cool.
Oh, okay, nice. And is it Streak as in streaky bacon, like STREAK?
It's STREAK. I think that's streaky bacon.
Yeah, I can say so.
Yes. And does it have an iPhone app I can use on the move? Is it mobile? I believe they do. And I think recently they did an upgrade so that you could get your templates on the app. Because sometimes, just as a caveat, not all of the app formations can you do the templates on the app. So if you're like sending, emails on the go and you want those templates, I believe Streak did an upgrade a couple of quarters ago about that, which is really cool. So, I mean, now obviously Streak might not be for you if you're not using Google, right? If you're on Microsoft, you might want to take a look at something like a Pipedrive. And I think Pipedrive is like $12 a month, and in pounds, it's probably translating to something like £10 a month. So, or maybe a little less. I didn't check what the conversion was this morning, but no. So just to kind of give you guys an idea of, you can have something that's lightweight and effective, right? Gives you everything that you need, doesn't have to be super clunky, and you can create a process around that. The other, things that I really want you guys to have in terms of actual tools is somewhere where you're putting your proposals, right? Now, I've had clients who come to me, especially like the most creative clients are usually like my UI UX clients, where they're like, everything has to look and feel and have the experience, and it's like amazing and great. So they're like proposals. I had someone who used to spend 18 hours per proposal, right? Like on average, usually it was spread across like a week, but everything from making sure the images were perfect to the beautiful, to the research was on point, to the, comparables, to everything had to look and be beautiful, which was great. We got him down to 3 hours. Now, most of my agency clients take about 30 minutes to do a proposal, right? And about software management programs for creatives like Tavia and Ninja. Yeah, Tave and Ninja. Yes, software management programs, it depends on what you're using. And I can go a little bit deeper into that. But for proposals, right, there's things such as HelloSign, there is Better Proposals, there's Quiller, there's a bunch of different ones. Again, it's going to depend on what the price point is of the clients that you're going after, how much visualization you need in the proposals, but being able to have something that's repeatable, right? So you're looking at anywhere between 5 minutes to do a proposal, if it's super like standard and boilerplate and you just need a signature, to about 3 hours, even if you're doing something that's absolutely beautiful and you're creating an experience off the proposal. So something to think about is, where do you lie? And no matter where you lie, really creating something for you guys where you're like, okay, cool. Like I can definitely cut down my time so that I can focus on more sales, or I can focus on delivery. All right, I have a question for you guys. What do you think are the biggest pitfalls when it comes to bringing a deal down a pipeline? Versus, okay, using an online proposals versus an offline like Keynote. So Keynote, I'll answer this question first. I'll answer your question, then you guys answer my question. So Keynote is great because it can give you that repeatable, process. The proposals are better because, one, you get to see how many times they open the proposal, right? So like you get to kind of cyber stalk them a little bit. That's the honest truth. So you get to see, if you also, depending on the proposal software, something that you can check out is if you're able to see like what page they're on. Like some of it gets a little big brother, but it's super good for sales. Yeah, I'm looking at Nat's face. She's like, so like if someone's stuck on something, it's one of two reasons. One, they're either like really contemplating it, or they left it up on their web browser and they totally forgot about it and stuffed it away, right? So you're looking at that. But it gives you an opportunity to call them, right? Or reach out or email and say like, hey, do you have any questions about X, Y, and Z? And they could be like, oh my God, I do have questions about that. It's like, well, yeah, because you have the data, right? Another cool thing about proposals is that it's so much easier to get signatures. I had a client, I kid you not, he went through, and he's a branding, he's been in business for a long time, but he's still a solopreneur, and he runs a creative agency, and he does like super high-end branding, for companies like Dolce & Gabbana and Chanel and things of that nature. But he actually put in proposal process, and he grew his revenue by 20% in 1 week. Not because all of a sudden he had more deals or he did more marketing. It's because the people that he sent proposals to just responded that much faster. So that's the difference between a Keynote and a proposal. It's about 20% of revenue, I would say, is the difference. All right, cool. So now I have a question for you guys. So my question is, where do you think there's like massive pitfalls, right? Like where does money start falling through the cracks in your sales process or anybody's sales process. You can type it in, go off mute. Hazel, do it. You're going for the unmute button. Hazel, do it.
Would it be, I mean, I know for me, I'm just talking like, for someone on the move, you're, as a creative, I find, so the fun stuff, so it's actually when the more dog work comes in and the follow up, the details. So like even like pieces like the expenditure, making sure the budget's being kept, keeping on top and keeping communicating, especially for productions, because budgets can really fluctuate. I don't know if that's an area. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. You're like, ah, the details and the email and the contract and the paperwork. Yeah, absolutely. Like that is totally valid. Like there's so much money that gets lost in like all that admin work. Because it feels like paperwork. It doesn't feel like business or creative or cool projects. It's like, ew, paperwork. The fuck? Right. Anybody else has some ideas?
I think for me, it's something about not having a well-defined product. Like everything I do is so bespoke that I feel like it requires like a totally new proposal and budget, and like the whole process has to be rewritten each time. But
yeah,
because I was speaking to some friends who run like a similar production company to me, and they were saying that they struck gold when they sort of defined 2 products that they offer, and for each product they offer 3 different packages, and so they're able to just kind of market that to their clients and kind of give like a baseline price for them, and I thought that was genius.
It's so good, and you bring up such a good point. So I've had clients who have been in business for 0 years, and I've had clients who have been in business for like 30 years. And this idea of like having, especially for creatives, having a specific, you know, offering or a couple of offerings, sometimes feels like crazy. But super quick story. I had a client, been in business for 20 years, and she worked with large brands like Microsoft and Dove and all of this. And her idea was that every single contract was completely bespoke. And then I was like, okay, go take a look at all of your proposals, right? Because usually I was like, how do you do proposals? And she's like, well, you know, me and, you know, another team member, one of her employees would go and, you know, they'd look at past proposals, and then they kind of like, you know, take that and use that as a template, and then, you know, change a few things, and then, you know, and then try to sell something similar, maybe change the pricing, kind of, you know, Frankenstein something together. And I was like, okay, so you're doing that for it, and there was so much resistance, like, we can't do this, everything's bespoke. Like that was a huge thing. I was like, go through your proposals and categorize them, because, you know, if you're taking past ones to create new ones, which everybody does this, it's not just her, and like chances are there's patterns. I was like, go and bucket them. So she did that, and you know, she found 3 real proposals. She found 3 like massive categories where there's a couple of deviations here and there, but she was able to take that, and then those are her 3 templates. It was awesome. She's like, oh my God, like now, and they went from, and this is the really cool part. So when you're in proposal hell, right, where it's like you send the proposal and you're super excited, and then they send it back to you with revisions, and then you send it back, and then they send it back to you with revisions, and then you send it back, and then they send it back to you with revisions. She went from like an average of 13 revisions to 2. So, I mean, that was massive, right? So what that did means she had cash faster because she was closing the deals faster, and it was just so much easier, so much easier. All right, cool. Share screen again. All right, so it's not just a couple of things, right? It's so many different things, right? It's not following up, not setting up the meeting, not qualifying, you know, chasing after people who don't actually want your stuff, right? That are yesing you, like not doing the client research, not closing, incomplete paperwork, you know, forgetting deals, not guiding communication, not getting buy-in, poor proposals. Like there's just, you know, people who ghost on you once you send a proposal. There's so many things. Now, if you take one thing away from proposal hell today, is to put an expiration on your proposals. Right? So that way they can't, come back to you or ghost you or, come back like a year later thinking that they're going to get the same proposal. And if anyone gives you crap about why you put an expiration on your proposal, you can always say, hey, these are our prices right now. It's really in your best interest to get our prices where they are, because we will be increasing them in 3 to 6 months or blah, blah, blah. We don't know what our pipeline looks like for production. Right now we have time and space. So, we're really locking you in. It's for your benefit. So that's like the one thing. You take away one thing from proposal hell is put in the expirations, because it makes a huge difference. All right. As you're setting up your CRM, just to kind of think about the different buckets, you have a lead, you're qualifying them, which means like they're a good candidate. They actually want your stuff and they can pay for it, right? Because a lot of the times we'll spend time with people who are not qualified. They don't have the money. They're like, just throwing you around in circles, and it's just time that could be spent with qualified candidates, right? We've got sort of a consult, a demo, a presentation, a meeting. It could be several meetings depending on what your actual deal looks like. You have some kind of commitment, a contract or proposal you're negotiating, and then a close, right? And so in any of these places, deals can get stuck, right? Which is why when you have a process and you're able to see it and visualize it, you can see where stuff is getting stuck and where your attention needs to go. Really quickly, go for it, Jonty.
Just for clarity's sake, when you're talking about proposals, what stage of that sales cycle are you talking about? Because in my world, I might put a proposal together if I'm sort of speccing on a brief, or I might put a proposal together further down the line after I've won the client.
So proposals usually go before commitment, right over here. Now, unless you're doing an RFP, or request for proposal, I always tell my clients, never do a proposal with someone unless you've had some kind of consultation, where you're really looking to see what it is that they want, right? Because some people will just be like, oh yeah, sure, I'm thinking about it, send me a proposal. And there goes hours of your day or time without knowing what they need and without actually getting buy-in that they're worth doing a proposal for, right? So there's a couple of things. We want to make sure that they're worth you spending your time, because there's people on, that you could be spending more time or doing marketing for. And then two, really kind of doing this, and it depends on the types of clients you have, right? So if you have bigger clients, you might actually have to do several presentations. Not all of them might be a proposal. And then also, you might do like a strategy, like a micro engagement first, and then do a proposal for something bigger. So really thinking about where this is, but basically you want your proposals looking like, during the presentation, before you're getting some kind of commitment from them. So kind of like right in here is the task for proposals from a visual standpoint. All right. Some fields that you're going to want to put in your CRM just so you can track deal size, because we want to know, which ones are bigger, which ones are smaller, especially if you're trying to get bigger clients. How many days are like they've been as a deal, because it's really different, like if someone is there for like 120 days, unless like they're really actively engaged with you, they're probably not going to buy, right? So we want to make sure that we're cultivating and we're cleaning out the deals. And if people don't want to buy, that's totally cool. You could put them in a newsletter and some kind of communication. And if they don't buy now, maybe they'll buy later. If you guys are doing referrals, a referral source is really good to have there, right? If someone continuously sends you referrals, that's amazing. You want to be able to show gratitude, whatever that might look like. Maybe it's monetary, maybe it's a bottle of champagne, maybe it's, whatever, depends on kind of the arrangement. Also, if you have a referral source that keeps sending you crappy leads, because that will happen, right? Sometimes you'll have someone who's really enthusiastic about what you do, but maybe they don't really get it. They send you the wrong people, or they don't, so that's a really good time to kind of go to that referral source and thank them for sending you so many leads, and then recalibrate the type of leads that they're sending you, right? So that'll give you some information, because that way they can focus their enthusiasm with better people that are actually going to pay you. Hotness, so that we can prioritize, like, okay, how hot is this lead? Like, are they super engaged? Are they super into it? Or are they kind of like, they're kind of interested, but they're not that enthusiastic, right? Or maybe they haven't really engaged. At the end of that spectrum is like they've totally ghosted you, right? So really kind of understanding like where to put your attention. And closing reason is a huge one. So most people, they don't actually go through the exercise, and this takes like 5 minutes of, after every single deal, know why you've either won the deal or lost the deal. Because what you can do afterwards is, you know, put that information and then really work on your marketing, right? So you can work on your objections, you can work on like content pieces, right? Like if you start getting a very similar objection all the time, you can write a piece of content, you can send that and use that during your sales process for people. So that is really useful information that can be utilized all over the business. All right, some hacks. So some things that you can do with your CRM is boomerang emails. So if you're like me and I have the worst memory ever, I will make sure that not only do I have a reminder in the CRM, but I will send the email to come back to my inbox when I need to respond to someone, right? So I'm like, oh man, I got to follow up with them on Tuesday. I have a task. And then boom, that shows up on my inbox, so I can't get away from it. Using lost deals to re-engage, right? So maybe you know that someone who lost a deal, but they went with a competitor, or they did an internal project, or whatever the case might be, and you know it's not going to work. So like right around the time, especially like if you're doing something creative, like if it's production and you're like, oh man, these people suck, like we know that the post-production is gonna like be awful, you can set yourself a time to go back and engage with them and say like, hey, how is that going? How is that project? Do you have any questions, right? Because if it's not going well with a competitor, they might come back to you. So that's a huge thing. And then you can get fancy with automations later. All right, cool. CRMs, also known to improve customer retention by 27%, which is insane. So not only do you have a huge uptick in terms of your sales and revenue on the front end, but if you're able to increase your retention, that means that good clients are staying with you for longer, which means that they're giving you more money for more time, which is awesome. And the reason for that is because, again, you're creating an awesome experience throughout, which is super, super, super cool. So Jonty asked me to put together, you know, and showcase for you guys, like what can good sales process do with actual people. So here's two of my favorite clients, Alex and Brian. They're part of Rally On, and they are super passionate humans, right? Like they run a video agency, and they've done a lot of their own creative work for a very long time. Like their own personal brand is Nowhere Men Adventures. They have like 253 followers on 1,000 followers on Facebook, and they're the types that get upset when a video doesn't hit 1 million views. If you guys want to zoom in later, within like 24 hours, right? Like these are like, they're very like, God, storytelling, narrative and everything, and they're addicted to narrative, and they're super, super cool. So they were very like resistant to really putting together a sales process. And I finally convinced them. So when I convinced them and they put a CRM in place, Alex, the one over here, he called me and he's like, Juliana, I closed my first 5-figure deal, which was really cool. This was about a year ago, and it was awesome. They, you know, I think it was like $12,000. Like it was like his first, like, you know, 5-figure deal, and he was just so stoked. And then I was like, Alex, dude, you know, you've got to put proposals in place. Like, I'm trying to indoctrinate him now for, I think this was like 4 months into it later. And he's like, okay, fine. And they finally put their proposal process, and that gave them confidence to actually go after bigger deals. And then they closed their first 6-figure deal, which was awesome. And they're like, oh my God, we paid rent for like 4 months. so that was really exciting. And now they work with like Grubhub, and you know, they work with these very, very big companies, and they're able to really fulfill on their passion, which was their fear. They're like, oh my God, are we actually going to be able to sell the stuff that we really love? And they have. And during Corona, you know, because I know that these are uncertain times, they secured $87,000 from one client that really wanted to keep them, and they were afraid that their budget would shut down next quarter. So, you know, and it was because they were just so streamlined, and working with them was just so easy, right? And I go back to that customer experience. They made it so easy for the customer that they were like, we have to keep you. How do we keep you? And they, you know, paid up front $87K, which is not a bad payday in one check, to make sure that, you know, they had a quarter's worth of work. And what's really cool about having good processes is that your profit margin is way higher than if you don't, right? Their profit margin is 90% for 2 creatives. And it's just them on the team. They have a couple of freelance editors, and it's not a bad way to do business. They are totally rocking it out. So my opportunity for those of you who are overachievers, if you want to go deeper into sales process and actually have like walkthroughs of like, here's how you set up a CRM, here's certain things that you need to look out for in terms of, you know, what assets to gather, what documents to have, like what is the process, like way more in depth looks like. I have my sales training, my sales process training for you guys. And usually it's $650, but for John T and Chris, I was like, I'm gonna give you guys a super deal. So it's $147. This is US, which I think it's like, what is that? Like 110 pounds right now, 115 pounds. So it's a super no brainer. I wanted to make sure that you guys are succeeding during this time. The thing is bit.ly/sales4freelance.u. I'll put that in the chat for anyone that wants to grab that. And also, because so many of you had mentioned like, oh my God, we need to go beyond our actual like referrals. I have a LinkedIn program that, you know, so many people have like benefited from, because I'm not a marketer, I'm a systems person. So I basically like hacked LinkedIn. Like, here's a system that I can do to get more leads. It's been getting me, you know, it's 60% of my revenue, and I'm happy to share that with anyone who purchases the training today. So for you guys, so that you have like an extra bonus there, not only for sales process, but for some lead gen outside of just referrals. Yes, Hazel.
Being I'm literally using this time to set up a process, and I've already researched some software, do you do some, are you horrible for some one-on-one coaching to actually bespoke set up a process?
It depends on what you need, but yeah, we can definitely talk about that.
Right.
And yeah, and the whole thing with this is also, you can research 20 million things, right? But there's some fundamentals that are always going to be there, that's just going to get you like what you need. And again, I think like researching right now, what we need truly is to be in action and implementing, right? So like that's where time should be spent, is mostly in the execution of stuff.
I'm just aware that you have a lot of, it's clear you have a lot of knowledge of what works and doesn't work, so it would be paying for expertise. That's why I'm like, and save a lot of time of research.
Absolutely. After 200K, like after 200 agencies, you know, 6, 7, and 8 figures, you get some experience, definitely getting to know what works and what doesn't work.
It's just, I hired someone before and it went very, very wrong. So I'm just aware, it's clear you know what you're talking about. So anyway, just leave it on that.
Yes. All right. Does anyone else have questions?
I'm just mindful of the time and wanting to respect people's time and yours. So are people happy to continue going for another 10 minutes or so? Juliana, is that okay with you to take some questions?
Yeah, I'm totally cool with staying for a little bit longer.
Great. So we'll go for another 10 minutes or so. So yeah, please ask questions, if you have any. No pressure if you don't. Are there any in the chat? We've got a message from somebody from earlier, myself. Does Streak integrate well with Asana and Monday?
So you have to check. So there's no native integration, right, with Monday and Asana, but you can use Zapier to do integrations. And I mean, and unfortunately, with a lot of tools for small businesses, especially at the lower end, Zapier is a great thing to use to connect them because they don't connect, right? They don't natively connect, but being able to use Zapier is super easy to just say like, okay, we've closed the deal, right? So here's an integration. That's one of my favorites, automation. We closed a deal. Now let's go tell, Monday or Asana, let's go tell, the project manager that it's time to kick off our onboarding workflow, right? So if you have a template for onboarding, once you close a deal, it's able to then go ahead and trigger that. Another one could be if you're working with a team of other freelancers and you're using something like Slack, you close a deal and then it notifies everybody that you've got a deal. So everyone's like, okay, we've got work to do now, let's set up, whatever we need to do internally. So that's another cool notification that you can do with automation.
So is that Zapier that you mentioned?
Zapier. Mm-hmm.
Zappier?
IER, yes.
Cool, great. Wow, lots to learn. Anyone else? Any more questions? Simesy?
No, you guys are good? All right, cool.
We're good.
Good. Cool. A few people saying their goodbyes. Yeah, I just want to say that this is really generous of you, Juliana, to offer the course for such a discount rate. Juliana was really taken by what we're doing with Freelance Union, supporting each other during this time. So she wanted to offer this at an extraordinarily low rate to help get us through this time and come out stronger. So it's a really good opportunity, and I think I'll definitely be taking that up. So hope you guys will too, and it'd be cool to maybe share our experience of that with each other somehow. So I don't know, maybe post on the WhatsApp group or something to see how you're doing with that. I feel like that was a whirlwind of information, and I have a lot to do. And what have I been doing for my professional life? Not having a sales process. I do not know. So we'll wrap up there. Juliana, on behalf of all of us, I just want to say a massive thank you for all you've shared with us today, and for all the thought you've put into the presentation. So next week, we have another webinar. We'll be following in a similar vein. We have Kitty Newman from Trapeze Media training on us on how we can use social media to promote our work. So I think a good lead on from today's session. In fact, she's given us 3 options to vote on. So we'll be doing a poll in the WhatsApp group coming soon. But it's things, they're all around using social media to boost our profiles. In other news, very quickly, Chris has created a very exciting project that we're all combining on. Chris, do you want to just explain that very quickly?
So the idea is creative aid. At this time, there's a lot of us in the group who may not really have any work, and there's a lot of businesses and charities out there who don't have marketing budgets. So the idea is to develop relationships that are mutually beneficial, where you can help charities and businesses out there, and ideally create longer lasting relationships. So it's about matching you with the kind of businesses and charities that you want to be working for after COVID-19. So I've created a survey And on that survey, I want to see if there's enough kind of buy-in among the group with this kind of concept. I know devaluing our work is not what we want to do, but maybe during a crisis, it's okay to do it. So ideally, like, pitching your ideas to the survey, and it's definitely something that's a moving system, let's say, and we can evolve it into something that everyone kind of agrees with. So I think we need 15 to 20 people for it to kind of have the kind of impact that we would like. So if any of you are interested, then yeah, jump in on the survey and go from there.
Thanks, Simesy. Really great work on that. Leading something that I think is going to be a really good way of helping other small businesses out in this time who've been affected by COVID and the recession. So if you're up for giving a bit of free time and your creativity in the short term, I think it may well pay dividends in the future as well for us as we develop more business relationships. So that's really cool. So I'm going to email you all after this with a link to our WhatsApp group and LinkedIn page if you're not members already, and a link to access Juliana's course, and the website. Or can I? Yeah, I'll share your website so that people know how to get in touch with you.
Will you be sharing the presentation from today as well? So, because it was a lot to take in a very short time, and I prefer to watch the presentation than take exhaustive notes. Or do we have to?
Is that possible, Juliana, to share the presentation?
Yeah, absolutely. I sent you guys the PDF earlier today, so feel free to share that with the group.
We have it.
Yeah.
Great. So we'll share that on with everyone. Otherwise, you can watch the recording of this webinar, which will be posted on the group. So you get all of our chat again for free as well. Cool. That's it for today. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Great to see you all.
Bye. Thanks again, Juliana.
Thanks, Juliana.
You're welcome, guys.
It's been awesome.
Yes.
See you next time, guys.
John-T, can you send me the recording as soon as it's up?
Of course.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Juliana.
Absolutely.
Be in touch.
All right. Ciao.
Bye-bye.